Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may Brahman protect us, both the preceptor and the student. May he nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and fruitful. May love and harmony dwell amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Now, during the last few sessions, I was trying to give a brief outline of the methodology of Karma Yoga, the philosophy of action, disinterested action. Now, and then I also said that this is the path leading to freedom, and that freedom is our true nature. Freedom is not something that really acquire as something new. It is, in fact, becoming spiritually enlightened means discovering our true nature, returning towards our true spiritual dimension. This takes us to the next yoga, means Jnana Yoga, means the path of wisdom, the path of philosophical analysis. Before entering the subject, I can try to give you an outline of what is meant by rediscovering our true nature, or understanding or returning towards our true spiritual dimension. A classic example is given in one of the oldest philosophical works, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It comes in the 4th chapter, 3rd Brahmana, 3rd section of 4th chapter of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Technically, it is known as Jyoti Brahmana, means the section dealing with the supreme light, supreme Atman, supreme self. That's the subject. There's a dialogue. It's in the form of a dialogue between a great king, a philosopher king, and a great sage. The name of the sage is Yajnavalkya, and the king is Janaka, a great wise philosopher king of ancient times. So one day, the sage came to his palace, and then King Janaka puts a question to him. It is one of the most celebrated passages in ancient Vedantic philosophical literature, one of the most celebrated passages. Highly philosophical, spiritual, and highly psychological. The king puts a question to the sage, Yajnavalkya. How do we live in this world? How do we go about doing our duties, performing our responsibilities? What is the supreme spirit which enables us to live in this world, to move about, go about our duties and responsibilities? What is the basic principle of sustenance? This is the question. The word used in this text is light, and in Sanskrit it's called Jyoti. Now, what is light? Well, in a very gross sense, we can say light is something that reveals something else. Now, light has got two functions. The light reveals itself, and the light reveals other things. Now, this paper is revealed by light, but the paper cannot reveal other objects. This is a basic difference, The light, it reveals itself, and in the presence of light, other things get revealed. So it is a great revealer, and also it is not revealed by anything, it is self-revealed, self-effulgent. Now this is the special significance of this technical word used, light here. That's an English translation in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is light for Jyoti. But in Sanskrit, it has got many other meanings. Slowly, when I explain this episode, this particular part of the philosophical work, it becomes clear. Now, apparently the simple question, how are we able to walk about in the streets of San Francisco, go to the office, to drive the car? Well, the simple answer is, it is sunlight. Sun is the thing which enables you to move about. Very obvious. Now, sun is the source of all lights. If there is no sun, eyes won't be able to function. So think of human beings or other creatures being born in a place where there is no light at all. Those creatures won't have the faculty of seeing objects. It is the presence of light, presence of sun, that actually is behind the growth of certain senses of perception which make use of sunlight. So, Yajnavalkya answers the question, it is sunlight. Kim Jyotirayam Purusha iti. This is a Sanskrit verse. The meaning is this, O Yajnavalkya, the name of the sage, what is the light which enables a human being to live in this world, to move about, and to sit, and to do duties and responsibilities? Now, Yajnavalkya answered sunlight. Now, again, the next question, when the sun is set in the west, when there is no sunlight, what enables you to move about? What enables a human being to live in this world, to do his duties and responsibilities or her duties and responsibilities? Well, when there is no sunlight, from an earthly point of view, it is moonlight. At night there is moonlight. Janaka said, all right, suppose sun has set and there is no moonlight. Moon has set. Then what enables you to see things? Now remember, the question is, what enables you to see things? Seeing doesn't necessarily mean seeing with the eyes. It means perception. The word seeing has got a higher meaning, deeper meaning. Perceive, to understand, to recognize things. That's the meaning. When there is no sunlight, no moonlight, well, you can start a fire. Fire enables you. Agnir Jyoti, that's the meaning used. So Aditya Jyoti is sunlight, Chandra Jyoti is moonlight, and Agnir Jyoti is fire. Then Janaka asks again, suppose there is no sunlight, no moonlight, and no fire, then how do you go about living in this world? How do you recognize different objects? How do you interact with people? And what makes you aware of the presence of different things? That's a function of light originally. Light makes you aware of the presence of different objects around you. When there is sunlight, you become aware of certain objects around you. Then the great sage, the great philosopher, answers. The answer is speech. And in the great commentary on the on this mantra, Shankaracharya explains this point. He was the exponent, the original exponent of Upanishadic philosophy. The non-Advaitic philosophy, Vedanta philosophy, as a compact system was expounded by Shankaracharya. So, in his commentary, he says, well, suppose you are sitting in a room, there is no sunlight, pitch darkness, no moonlight, and there is no fire. How do you come to know of a vehicle passing in the street? Or maybe a bird or some other sound, or the presence of some objects which produce noise. How do you come to be aware of the presence of those objects? Then Yajnavalkya answers, it is speech. The speech or the sound that comes from those objects enables you to be aware of the existence of those objects, because your mind and your ears together go to those objects. But there is no vision involved, and there is no presence of sunlight or moonlight or firelight involved. So you become aware of the objects from which this sound is coming, and you become aware of the existence of those objects. Then that is the last question, and this is pure Vedanta. This is the essence of Vedanta. Next question is, suppose there is no sunlight, no moonlight, no fire, and no sound coming. Then how do you become aware of the existence of different objects? How are you able to know the existence of different objects? Example is given, dream. In dream, for example, you are sleeping in a dark room, pitch darkness. There is no sunlight, no moonlight, no fire, and no sound. But you are walking in San Francisco streets. Maybe you are part of a procession. You are shouting, or people are making noise. You can see vehicles moving. You recognize your friends who are walking in the opposite direction. And you are able to recognize each other. Now, what is the revealer? What is the jyoti? What is the light which enables you to see things, to hear things? You know, in dreams also you hear, not with your gross ears. In dreams sometimes you hear loud noise. But there, the mind is active, the sense of hearing is active, but the subtle dimension of sense of hearing. And also when you see objects in dream, you can very clearly see in dream, as clearly as in waking state. What enables you? How are you able to see things? In dream, your eyes are closed, there is no sunlight, moonlight, nothing. But you see clearly a football match going on, you can see all these things. How are you able to see? So there is a light which exists when there is no sunlight, no moonlight, no fire, and there is no sound which enables you to see, to know the existence of different things. And not only that, when this light, the supreme light of lights, the light behind all lights, the light which is the light of all other lights, it is this light which can function independently of the presence of sense organs, mind, or everything. This light is present in dream. When your eyes are closed, but there is no sunlight, no moonlight, no world, and no fire, nothing. And not only that, when this light is withdrawn, all other lights become useless. When the supreme light withdraws itself from the human body, you cannot see anything. Many people die when their eyes are in perfect order, perfect condition. Ears are in perfect condition. From a practical point of view, from an empirical point of view, everything is all right. Still people die. Something withdraws from that body. The light of all the lights. The light which enables you to see with your eyes, the light which enables you to hear with your ears, and the light which enables you to hear noises, to know the presence of things by the sense of touch, by the sense of taste, whatever may be. The light of all lights, the revealer of all revealers, which is self-effulgent. When that withdraws from our body, then all other light, the sunlight, the moonlight, everything becomes absolutely useless. Now, where is that light existing? Yajnavalkya says that light is Supreme Consciousness. All other lights borrow light from this. Sunlight is able to function as a revealer of things, as a revealer of different visual objects, only when that light is present in our system. And then that consciousness vanishes. When your eyes are open, you are not able to see anything. And it is this light which enables the mind to function. When this light functions in a particular dimension, it is called mind. What is mind? Mind is defined as something which speculates. When you see an object from a distance, when you are not sure of what that object is, whether it is a form of a human being or a pillar, you are not sure. So your mind is speculating between two possible alternatives. And when you come very close to the object, when you come to the decision that it is a human being, not a pillar, then our intellect functions. So, behind all this, it is one consciousness that is present, which enables the mind to speculate, which enables the intellect to perceive and recognize things, and which enables your mind to recollect from past memory. It is this consciousness. So Yajnavalkya says, it is this consciousness which is the light of all lights. This light is present not outside like sunlight or moonlight or fire. It is present within. But then this light is not part of this body. This light uses this body, uses this mind, intellect, as an instrument, as a vehicle. There is another portion of the same book where the same sage, instructing philosophy, in his dialogue with another woman philosopher called Gargi, he says, this supreme consciousness, it exists on everything in this world. Within, not visible outside. But at the same time, this body is functioning only as an instrument, as the filament of a bulb or the outer mechanism of a heater. It is the electricity that really enables the heater to function as a heating mechanism. Similarly, this consciousness is present within all of us. So, Yajnavalkya says, the philosopher says, the supreme revealer of all revealers is the consciousness, which is immanent in all beings, which is universal, which is all-pervading, which is transcendental, and which is eternal. And another interesting thing, it is present in dreams also. See, if you just analyze your own experience, in fact, we all have double lives, in fact. But normally we do not recognize dream experience as real as waking experience. We count only waking experience as real. But suppose a person lives for 90 years and he sleeps for 8 hours of the day. You don't say he lives only for 60 years. For 30 years lifespan, he's sleeping actually, maybe dreaming. But you take into consideration the 30 years also. But generally, in day-to-day life, we think that dream experience is a lesser reality, and waking experience is the real, and dream experience is something which is absolutely unreal. Vedanta recognizes that there is a relative existence in dream and also in waking state, and also in deep sleep state, in dreamless sleep state also. According to Vedantic philosophy, this consciousness is functioning in waking state at the gross level. In waking state, we walk in the street using our feet and also our mind, because mind should be active, feet also should be active. So the senses of action are involved, mind also is involved. So everything takes place at a gross level in waking state. And while walking, if you have some experience which registers itself strongly in your mind, that night when you go to sleep, you may dream and you may relive, you may re-experience the same waking experience. Not exactly in the same way, but in a different way. Because in dream state, every experience takes place at the subtle level, not in gross level. In dream, we don't walk, we run. But we walk not with our feet. We are sleeping. The act of walking is taking place at the mental level. So it is very subtle. No senses of action involved. So we more or less relive, re-experience in dream state whatever we experience in waking state. But at a subtle level. In dream, it is at the mental level. In waking state, it is at the physical level. So at the waking state, it is at the gross level. In dream, it is the mental level, subtle. But there is a reality. Now, when we wake up, we are able to remember our dreams. When you wake up, you remember your dreams. What does it mean? It means the experiencer of dreams continues to live and experience and continues to exist in waking state also. The witness, the experiencer, the subject of waking and the subject of dream experiences is the same. Otherwise, you cannot remember what you experience in dreams. You would have forgotten completely. And not only that, the continuity of waking state experience into dreams is also a proof that the experiencer of both the states is the same. Because, all your dreams are directly or indirectly related to waking state experiences. In waking state, you may need 6 hours to reach New York from here. But in dream, you need only 1 split second, because it takes place at the mental level, mental impression level. So there is difference with regard to time. You go to sleep here and you dream you have reached somewhere else in Europe. So there is difference with regard to space. All these differences are there. But behind these differences, there is also a relationship. Because you can never have a dream experience which is completely divorced, separate, which is completely distinct from your waking state experiences. Something is left in mind during waking state, and that comes to the surface in dream. Because in dream we are helpless. We cannot control over ourselves. Mind suddenly moves about without any control. In waking state, we can, to some extent, restrain our mind, at least restrain the senses of action. So Vedanta says the same consciousness continues to exist in waking state and also in dream state. And Vedanta says the same consciousness as the witness, as the all-seeing subject exists in dreamless deep sleep as well. Why? The reason is, after you have enjoyed a dreamless sleep, deep sleep, when you wake up, you have the feeling, well, I had good rest, I had a good sleep. That I was present in deep sleep, though we were not aware of it. When we are enjoying deep sleep, we are not aware of it. But when we wake up, we are aware of the blissful experience of deep sleep. Which means the I, the witness, the subject, was present without any change in waking state, in dream state, and also in deep sleep state. And this I, this subject, the witness, is consciousness. That is our true nature. Once we realize this, it becomes freedom. All the 4 yogas are different approaches towards this freedom. So, one important point to remember is, there is a light behind all lights. There is a supreme revealer which is self-revealed and also the revealer of all other objects, which is behind all other lights, the sunlight, the moonlight, the firelight, all this. So you have to remember, light here doesn't necessarily mean something which is effulgent alone. Here light means that which reveals itself and that which reveals other objects, because that's a function of light. So in a dark room when there is neither moonlight nor sunlight nor fire, speech becomes light. Why? Because speech reveals the presence of a vehicle moving in the street, which you cannot see, because there is no sunlight, no moonlight or anything. And suppose you are sitting in a room where there is neither speech, nor sunlight, nor moonlight, nothing. You can speculate, you can meditate, you can think, you can contemplate, and memories come back, rush back to your mind. You relive, you re-experience whatever you have undergone the previous week. And mentally you can walk, you can travel, you can see objects, because at mental level we can see. Now, what enables us to see different objects at the mental level? It is the consciousness. I think this needs a little clarification. Seeing at the mental level, hearing at the mental level. Suppose you are learning music. In the morning you listen to one song or something. You are not written down. You remember. In the evening, you rehearse it, you practice it. When you rehearse, when you practice that music in the evening, you cannot practice it without mentally hearing in your mind. A painter who goes to an art gallery, who closely observes a master's creation, and who comes back and then tries to paint a picture on the basis of his recollection, without seeing the painting in front of him, is able to make an outline. Why? He is able to see not with his eyes, but with his mind. So we can hear without ears, we can see without eyes, we can remember. All these are possible because there is a supreme revealer, a light behind all these lights, which is the supreme consciousness. And another point is, your external eyes are of no use if this light is not within us. All other lights, eyes borrow their ability to see objects from this supreme light. Ears borrow the ability to hear things from this light. Their tongue borrows its ability to taste things from this light. So all knowledge, all consciousness emerges from this light, and it is present in waking state, in dream state, and also deep sleep state. See, in all these three states, if you analyze these three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep states, in deep sleep there is no object, but there is the subject. Because after waking up, you are able to recollect the experience of deep sleep. And you are by recollecting, you are connecting a bridge. You are establishing a bridge between waking state and deep sleep state. When you recollect your experience of absolute rest in deep sleep, you are actually connecting your waking state with the deep sleep state. And also, when we dream objects which we have seen in waking state, we are connecting the waking state and dream state. Now here, one point that should be remembered is, there is plurality and difference with regard to objects, but there is no plurality or difference with regard to the subject. The subject is the same. Wow. The subject of waking state is the subject of dream state. That's why we always see a subtle connection between what we dream and what we experience in waking state. If anybody has got a dream which is completely separate, which has no connection at all with the waking state experience of that person in this life, then Vedantins will tell you it has something to do with your previous life experience. That's Vedanta says. Because all experiences are accumulated in mind and remain in subtle residual forms in the form of memories, tendencies and impressions. In dream they come to the surface. But most people have only those dreams which are somehow related to waking state. Which means there is difference with regard to the objects of the three states, but there is no difference at all with regard to the subject. The subject remains the same, the objects change. Why? Because the objects of waking and dream states may be related, but they are not the same. See, in dream you can see an elephant flying in the sky. It's possible. What really happens is, the idea of flying is unconsciously connected to the idea of an elephant. But this connection is illogical, irrational from the waking state point of view. But in dream there is no reason. In dreams you find yourself flying in the sky, which is not in a plane. So how does it happen? So the idea of flying is connected, is related to our normal waking state experience, which is irrational from the waking state logic, not from the dream state logic. So in dream state everything is in the form of mental impressions. Mind just projects ideas, disconnected ideas. But there is some relationship between waking and dream states. But there is difference also. Difference is there, some subtle relationship is also there. Difference is there because you cannot travel to New York in a split second in waking state. It takes 6 hours. But in dream, it's only one split second. You go to sleep here and you dream you have reached Europe. It's again difference. So there are differences. But the desire to go to Europe was already there in waking state. You may have read a newspaper, you may have read a travelogue, then go to sleep. And in dream, you dream that you reach Europe. So the ideas are related. Now, according to Vedanta philosophy, there is plurality and difference and change at the level of objects, but there is no change or plurality at the level of subject. Subject is the consciousness, the same jyoti or light of all lights that we discussed in the other portion. Now, how to come back, how to realize the truth that we are this supreme consciousness? For this, the ancient sages have chalked up 4 paths, that is Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. I shall just relate one aspect of this philosophy with Karma Yoga, which we already discussed earlier. We already discussed the science of Karma Yoga, disinterested action. Now, philosophically, there is a connection. Now, we know very well that as subjects, as the witness, as Atman or self, we are one, we are the self-revealed, and we are immanent, transcendental, and also omnipresent. Now, such a reality cannot be involved in any action. If you are Atman, which is the supreme self, supreme subject, supreme consciousness, which is all-pervading, how can Atman do work? So work is taking place at the level of the senses of action and senses of perception and mind. Now, there is one verse in Gita which actually gives the psychology of connecting the highest non-Advaitic philosophy, non-dualistic philosophy with Karma Yoga. The great commentator Shankaracharya has written a famous commentary on this. Karmanya akarmaya pasyet akarmani cha karmayeka sa buddhiman manusheshu sa yukta krishna karma krit. This is the verse. I should explain in English. Here, Lord Krishna tells who is the real karma yogi, who is the real person of wisdom, with the real philosopher, the real enlightened person. He says, the one who sees action in inaction and the one who sees inaction in action, he is the real yogi. That's the definition. And he does everything, still he is not affected by any of these actions. Krishna karma kriti means the one who does everything. So the verse, it may appear to be a bit paradoxical, but there is a deep meaning behind this. The one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action is the real yogi, is the real philosopher, is truly intelligent, is the truly enlightened person. This is the verse. Now, how do you relate this? Now, a spiritually enlightened person who does not think that he is just this body which comes and goes, or this mind which speculates, worries, full of anxiety and depression, or the intellect which perceives something now and something else later. The one who realizes that he or she is beyond all this psychophysical mechanism, intellect and mind and so on. And the one who realizes that he is the supreme consciousness, he can or she can remain completely unaffected whatsoever he or she does in this world. She may be or he may be in the midst of intense activity, doing much more work than ordinary people in the world. But within the mind, within her or within him, he has got the feeling, the conviction that I am the Atman, the supreme self, supreme consciousness. He is a witness which is not involved in any of this activity. So that enables that person to remain in a state of extreme quietude, calmness and tranquility, completely unaffected by whatever he does. So that person is able to combine, harmonize intense action with intense quietude. Why? Because even in the midst of all activity, within him, he feels, well, I am the supreme consciousness. I am not this body. See, If you think you are this body, then every time you do some hard work for some hours, you feel you will need rest. Because because our mind doesn't go beyond this body. And body is perishable. It comes and goes. I need not give a graphic description of body, human body. Everyone knows. There is nothing sublime in it. There is something, because this body becomes an instrument for attaining the highest spiritual wisdom. This body can be turned into a tool or instrument to attain the highest spiritual wisdom. In that sense, this body is sublime, it is a sublime instrument. But not by itself, as a tool, as an instrument, as a means for something sublime and higher. Now, if a person can be convinced within that he is not just this physical body, we get tired and exhausted. Out of the mind, we get bored, we get anxious, depressed, which worries, and which feels jealousy, anger, all this. Or the intellect, which is also wavering, of a wavering type. It is convinced of something now, and again it rejects that conviction, and it is convinced of something totally opposite next moment. So there is something beyond all this. I am that reality. If this conviction becomes a part of our intuitive experience, then one can combine action with contemplation. Not just action, intense action with intense contemplation. In this verse, Lord Krishna uses certain terms. He says, the one who combines this intense conviction, strong conviction that is the supreme self-consciousness, is the light of all lights, the witness of all the three states of experience. If he has got this conviction, even while being engaged in intense activity, he can see inaction in action. Why? Because what is action? Action is something related to senses of perception, senses of action, and mind. We always do things with these 16 items. Mind includes intellect also in this context. Whatever we do, either senses of action or senses of perception or mind and intellect, all these are involved. These are the actors in whatever activity we undertake. But these are different entities. These things are different from Atman. These are perishable entities. Atman or self is the only imperishable absolute reality. I am that Atman. So that person can dissociate himself completely from all the activities, and he can see action in inaction and inaction in action. So if he is keeping quiet, doing nothing, he will think, I am doing nothing. It means his senses of perception are inactive, senses of action are inactive. But Atman can never be inactive in the sense it can never withdraw from action, because it never gets involved in action. You can withdraw from action only if you can get involved in action. So Atman is beyond action and inaction. Atman or self is supreme consciousness, all pervading. It is the transcendental reality, the immanent reality. If this conviction can be cultivated, it can even become an antidote to anxiety, depression. See, if people get depressed, depression takes place at the mental level. I am not talking about extreme chronic cases, mind you. But people who generally become too anxious, too much depressed with some minor setbacks in life, if they suddenly remind themselves, I am not this mind which gets depressed, which gets upset by setbacks in ordinary day experiences. I am something beyond this. Even if that person reads Bhagavad Gita, that person, that he can get peace of mind. That is, Mahatma Gandhi refers to again and again. Whenever Gandhi said, whenever he felt depressed, and Gandhi was a person who was always active. He worked for almost 20 hours a day, every day, practically. And Gandhi said that whenever he felt, Mahatma Gandhi, whenever he felt anxious, depressed, or worried about anything, he used to turn to the pages of Bhagavad Gita. And as a mother consoling the child, Bhagavad Gita was a great source of consolation for Gandhi. That's what he himself wrote. This is a famous verse. So, one can be in the midst of activity, do everything. Krishna karma kar, that's a term used in this particular verse, means the one who does everything. He is not indifferent, he is not negligent or just lazy. He is in the midst of activity. With all care, attention and zeal he does his work, duty. But he sees, well, all these activities are taking place at the bodily level, the mental level, psychological or intellectual level. But I am beyond mind, intellect and body and psychophysical mechanism. I am the Supreme Self, the Atman, which is not in any way involved in any action. Therefore, a person who practices this can combine in his life intense action and intense quietude of mind, tranquility and peace. This is an important principle. That's how we find yoga is related to Vedanta. Vedanta is a philosophical dimension of yoga. So, you find a person who may not be a philosopher, but who understands these basic principles, can actually practice yoga and also Vedanta together. Or the other yoga, Hatha Yoga, all these should be used as instruments to make our body fit and competent to do our duty properly. But behind this yoga, there is a higher and more sublime philosophy, which actually answers the question, why am I here? What is the supreme goal of human existence? That is the relevance of Vedanta philosophy. Now, this idea is again outlined in a number of other Upanishadic passages. I think we have already reached the end of lecture. Now we have more than half an hour, 35 minutes. During the interaction, I can explain more points related to this subject. So, you can ask any question related to what we have discussed or in a general way that you have not yet referred to.
Swami, you speak of the Supreme Consciousness, the Supreme Life as being self-revealing. But we have trouble perceiving that self-revealing. So what is that? How does this come about that this self-revealing light does not reveal itself so easily?
We are that self-revealing consciousness. We are not object. We are the subject. But we generally believe that we are objects to be revealed by some other light. So Vedanta teaches us that we are that all-revealing light of all lights. So Vivekananda uses the term dehypnotization. Now we have hypnotized ourselves into thinking that we are this body, we are something other than this light. We have hypnotized ourselves into thinking, we have deluded ourselves into thinking that we are something other than this light. So we have to dehypnotize, get back our true identity. So this revealer is the subject, and the revealer is Atma Jyoti. It's called Atma Jyoti, the light of Atman. Atman as light. The Atman as the light behind all lights. Is the Atman which is as a witness, which is the subject of all other entities. All objects are relative. Atman is only subject. The example is given, the ocean and waves. The relative world is like waves, small waves which form themselves in the ocean. They are not different from, these waves are not different from water. But you ask some people who have suffered, who have lost their homes during the tsunami, during the tidal waves, and if you tell them, well, it is not different from the ocean, they may not agree, because 300 feet tall waves invade the seashore and people lose their life and property. So that apparently they are different. But in reality, they are not different. As water, the waves are non-different from ocean. But as from the standpoint of name and form, they are different. But name and form are only temporary phenomena. They come and go. Similarly, all other entities are different names and forms, temporary phenomena, temporary manifestations, impermanent manifestations. All these are in reality non-different from the Atman. So that's why, spiritual enlightenment is a kind of return journey towards our true nature. It's kind of homecoming. We are not getting any new knowledge. If we ask the question why we are not revealed, in fact we are the supreme revealer of all revealers. The sunlight can be effective as a revealer only if the consciousness is functioning within. Otherwise the sunlight will be of no use. So it is and that light is within us all. It is the immanent reality. It is the Atman, the consciousness, it is the immanent reality. It is also the omnipresent reality. The analysis is based on this principle. There is only one reality in the world, that is Atman, which is the only consciousness, which is the only conscious principle, and all other entities borrow their ability to function from this Atman, from this consciousness. Rather, this consciousness is the only supreme reality. That's the idea behind. So, in a way, we are non-different from that consciousness, the light of all lights. There is no need for anyone to reveal us. We are the revealer. And this immanent reality is present in all of us. And yoga is one path which slowly takes us towards this by dehypnotizing our understanding. Right now we are under the wrong notion that we are something other than this light. That should be reversed. We should rediscover our true identity, that we are the light of all lights. That's the idea. There is an interesting story in the Chandogya Upanishad. It's another very, very, very revealing episode. A small boy, he was left in his home, and his father went away for teaching in some forest hermitages. When he returned, he found a child had neglected his studies. And then the father asked him, you go and study, you go to that school, faraway school, forest school, and spend 12 years there, and then you return. Then, in fact, the father's name was Uddalaka, and the child's name is Shvetaketu. It comes in the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, you find. So the child went to the forest school. After 12 years, he returned. Then the father found he had become so egoistic, so proud of his learning. Then the father asked him a question, put a question to him. Did you study that by studying which everything that is unknown becomes known? Did you learn that by learning which all that is unheard of becomes heard? Did you study that which is the foundation of all other knowledge? Like that, in the Upanishad, in the old archaic Sanskrit language, the father puts his question to the child. Child said, well, I didn't study. My teacher didn't teach me. Perhaps he didn't know. Anyhow, then the father told him, there is one supreme truth by knowing which you come to know of the true nature of everything else. Just as by studying the true nature of a pot made of clay, you come to know of the nature of all objects made of clay. The same clay, it is used for making pots, pans, etc. But if you analyze the properties of a single pot, you can learn the properties of all other objects made of clay. Then, after a long conversation, the father asked the boy, you go and bring a small fruit of a tree, a banyan tree, a fruit. Then you break it. The child broke it, a young man by the time. And again, what do you see? Seeds. You break it again. The father said, the son broke it. And what do you see? I see nothing. Then do you know from where is this tree coming from? The mighty tree, banyan tree. The huge tree is coming from that voidness which you are not able to perceive. See, the son broke the fruit, and some seeds came out. And the father asked him to break the seeds. Then, after breaking 2-3 times, he reached a point he could not break anything. There was nothing, only emptiness. Then the father said, it is from this emptiness that this mighty tree is coming out. It is not empty. It is invisible to you. That seed contains the energy, the power, the genesis. It is the nucleus from which the huge tree grows up. Similarly, there is the invisible, immanent reality present in all of us, from which the entire universe projects. I know it's a bit complicated. No, the idea is this. This reality is present as in the minutest of the minute and also in the grandest of the grand. Now, if you go on breaking and come to the minutest of particles or whatever may be, from which is the fundamental particle or object, which constitutes the entire creation, there also this consciousness is present. And it is present in the grandest of the grand. In other words, there is nothing in this world in which this reality is not present as the immanent principle. If you accept that there is anything in this world, in a grain of dust in this world, where this reality is not present, then you have to say it is an independent reality. So everything in this world contains that reality. See, one problem in philosophical discussion here is we must completely leave behind the monotheistic ideas of a creation, of a creator God. This is a very important point in understanding Vedanta. We must completely leave behind the idea of a God who creates this world and who stands outside of his creation. God, as the creator of the world, and the created world existing independent of God, that idea should be completely left behind. That is the principle of Advaita. And again, in Vedanta, we are not going from cause to effect. We are analyzing the nature of the effect, going back from effect to cause. You look around, see this visible universe, and then analyze the nature of this phenomena. Where do they come from? Is there a fundamental unifying principle behind entire creation, behind all these diversities? That's what we are seeking in Vedanta. In Vedanta, there's a search for the fundamental harmonizing one reality, which is impersonal. So there is no place for a personal God there. Personal God is not ruled out, but that is not the highest understanding of the reality. Personal God is accepted so long as you accept this world as a reality. You have to accept personal God as a reality, who is the creator of this world. But anyone can say, you ask anyone, is this world that we are living in is an absolute reality? To be absolutely real, it should remain the same without any change. This world, did not exist maybe several billions of years back. If it existed, it was in a different shape. So anything which changes its shape and form cannot be absolutely real, because it somehow comes into existence sometime in the past, which means it did not exist before it came into existence, which means it will cease to exist sometime in future, which means before it was created, it did not exist, and there will come a point when it will cease to exist, it will not exist. What does it mean? It is real, relatively real. It is real, accepted, but only in a relative sense. And what is relativity? The waves of the ocean are relativity. The waves are real, no doubt about it. Waves exist for several hours. The earth exists maybe for several millions of years. That's only different. That's a Vedantic standpoint. Waves are real, no doubt about it. They have an independent status from the water, which is calm and quiet elsewhere. You ask people who lost their lives in the tidal waves, you ask them the waves are unreal, they won't agree with you, because it causes so much of destruction. But they are not absolutely real. Only when you analyze and go deeper into the formation of the waves, when you understand that waves come into existence and after some time they subside, they become one with the ocean, they merge back to the main body of water, which is calm and quiet. Then you realize, waves are not absolutely real. Similarly, this world is not absolutely real, it is not absolutely unreal either. It is relative. That's called Maya. What is relative? It is real in a relative sense. That is relativity. And that's the point to be understood. So Vedanta asks the fundamental question, what is absolutely real? And what is absolutely real should be the same in the past, present and future, which the universe is not. The galaxies cannot be said to be absolutely real. You ask any physicist, theoretical physicist, he will tell you. After several billions of years, the universe will be in a different shape. Global warming means humanity can become extinct. So the world is not absolutely real, but then it is not absolutely unreal. It is real, but relatively real, which means it is bound by time, space and causation. It exists in time, space and causation. That is relativity. And Vedanta asks the question, what is beyond this relativity? What is beyond time, space and causation? Beyond the empirical universe. And then Vedanta, you know what Vedanta says? It says it cannot be defined. That is, in fact, that is the important aspect of Vedanta. Vedanta doesn't say Atman is absolutely real. Vedanta says Atman is the word that we use to call something which cannot be called by any word. Anirvachaniya means vacham agocharatum. It means beyond words, beyond explanation, beyond definition, beyond description, beyond any kind of exposition. Because definition or description means you are limiting something within the framework of words. Description or definition is always a limitation. And the unlimited, the absolute reality cannot be limited within the framework of definition. So, Atman, Brahman, Self, all these words are used. And Upanishad literature makes one point, Upanishad say, the reality is beyond description. The absolutely real cannot be defined. If you define, what does it mean? You have to define with words. You have to use certain attributes. This is Atman. No, that means there is beyond this there is no Atman. If you say this is Atman, then you have to say something which is not this is not Atman. You are admitting another ontological reality, which is against Vedanta. So Vedanta says the absolute reality is beyond definition, description. But it is not emptiness. It is something which is within all of us. It is not emptiness. It is not doctrine of emptiness. It is within all of us. It is supreme consciousness. It expresses itself as supreme consciousness, bliss and absolute. These words do not constitute a full definition of the reality. But these are as far as words can go. Beyond these words cannot go. So these words are used with a specific meaning. See, when we say Atman or Self is supreme consciousness, the word is used, this definition is used to deny the possibility of defining Atman as unconscious. Atman is defined as supreme bliss. It is this sentence is used to rule out the possibility of defining Atman as devoid of blissfulness. I know that it is a bit too technical, but one point to be remembered is the absolute reality is a matter of intuitive inner experience. And experience is ultimately the criterion of spirituality and religion, not belief or conviction. Even a fraction of experience makes us spiritual. You become universal in outlook, broad-minded in outlook. More and more as it reveals and manifests within us, we become more and more broad-minded in outlook, universal in outlook. Because the reality is universal. So the one who tries to experience this reality, as he experiences, the person also becomes more universal. So this reality can only be experienced, can never be explained or defined. And so that is one fundamental point in Vedanta. The absolute reality can only be experienced. It is not objectified knowledge, it is our true nature, and it can only be experienced as the inner experience within all of us. That's the idea behind. So it is not emptiness. When we assert that it is beyond definition, it doesn't mean it is non-existent. It is the only reality that is truly existent. But it can only be experienced. Even in Indian philosophical tradition, there are different schools of thought which are entirely different from Advaita or Vedantic philosophical tradition, which believe in a creator God, who believes that God creates this world one day. In fact, there is one there is one verse in the Taittiriya Upanishad which is almost similar to Bible Genesis. In the beginning there was word was with God and all. And God breathed his soul into the nostrils of man. Such terms are found in Taittiriya Upanishad. Sa akamayeda bhusyam prajayedi satapo adapyada sadabastapto idam sarvam asrijada tatsushtu atadeva anupravishat. Anupravishat means God entered his created beings. So almost like Genesis you find. So such ideas are found in all monotheistic religious traditions, including popular Hinduism. But in Vedanta, the emphasis is on the idea of a supreme impersonal reality which is immanent, transcendental and also universal, all pervading, and which is a matter of our own inner experience. And Swami Vivekananda brought this philosophy to America. He took special care to expound only Advaita Vedanta in America and European countries. Because other monotheistic ideas are already popular in Europe and America through popular Christian Jewish traditions. So Swamiji expounded Vedantic idea because it goes beyond all religions. It goes beyond all nationalities. It is not a religion. Vedanta is not a religion, in fact. It is a matter of inner experience. Anyone can practice and experience this. It is not a religious tradition. It is not a cult. It is a universal spiritual philosophy. That's the idea behind it. It doesn't belong to any religious tradition or national tradition or cultural tradition. I think it's not a cult.
Just a quick question. Does a chant came to mind when you were saying the light of all lights? Okay. And is the Twameva mantra? Twameva Mata, Chakita, Twameva?
Oh, yes.
And is that describing the Atman and Supreme Consciousness?
Yes. There is a mantra, Tumeva Mata cha Pita Tumeva, Tumeva Bantusya Sakha Tumeva, Tumeva Vidya Dravinam Tumeva, Tumeva Sarva Mama Deva Deva. There, the devotee is praying to the Supreme Universal Self. You are my mother, you are my father, you are my learning, my intellect, and you are my only wealth. Means you are the only reality. It's a prayer, the Atman. In fact, at the higher level, you and me are non-different. This is the last prayer. So you find in many of these prayers, at the beginning, there is always a difference between the worshipper, the seeker, and the object of worship at the beginning. And ultimately, the devotee experiences the presence of his supreme reality, the one whom he is praying to within himself. He experiences within himself the presence of the reality to whom he is praying. Because that's the only reality existing in this world. This prayer is very, very famous, yes. Yes.
And I just know at the last line, I've seen it translated as the light of all lights, thou art.
Yes, that's true, that is true. Because father, mother, wealth, learning, these are the things that we normally consider as ours, as belonging to ours. And we belong to them and they belong to us. But ultimately, it is the supreme light consciousness which is the only father, the only mother, the only wealth, and the only learning. The only thing to be learned. That's the idea behind. It's a sublime prayer. Yes.
So when you speak of the ultimate reality being an experience, in light of what you said tonight, the experience is when the consciousness reveals itself.
Yeah.
Rather than us finding it, it reveals itself, even though we have to, as thinking of ourselves as objects. Now we have to move on a search.
When we read these verses and meditate, intensely contemplate on this idea, more and more we become convinced, not all of a sudden, that there is something beyond this body, beyond all these things that we really are. That's our true reality. That conviction slowly becomes stronger and stronger. And that makes us open our mind, and as we contemplate more and more on these ideas, without our being aware of it, we spiritually move forward. This is a very rational and philosophical analysis, because light here stands for anything which reveals other objects and also which reveals itself. The special characteristic of Atman, or self, as the revealer of all other revealers, is this, the light of all other lights. It is within us, within all beings, but it is not part of the physical mechanism. It is present in all beings, entire creation, as the immanent principle. It is this light which gives existence to other beings. Light also means existence, because we come to know of the existence of something because of light. So light here corresponds to existence, the idea of existence also. So Atman is analyzed as light of all lights here. You can Jyotisham Jyoti, that's a term used in the Upanishad, means light of all lights. The light which gives light to all other lights. See, the idea light doesn't mean sunlight or moonlight or anything, Anything which reveals, because revealing is a function of light. So anything which reveals is light. And what is the supreme light? The light which always remains within us, whose presence enables other lights to function. If the consciousness is not present within, the sunlight is of no use. Moonlight or fire, words, of no use. And not only that, there are people who are maybe blind, maybe deaf, maybe incapable of speaking, but such sages and saints are sometimes, there have been such great saints who are spiritually enlightened. So, the inner light always remains active. I touched upon this subject as a prelude to introducing Jnana Yoga. That's the next subject, because this is the Vedantic, the philosophical aspect of yoga. So that's why I touched upon the subjects. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.